It was already getting dark outside, and I was sitting in front of the mirror, running my hands through my hair. The door burst open, and my heart quickened before relaxing when I saw Darium's beautiful, unique eyes gazing at me with so much affection. He takes a seat at the side of the bed, never once removing his gaze from me, and he smiles, revealing those perfectly white teeth of his, causing me to beam at him. "Aren't you back a little early?" I asked, turning over to get a proper view of his face. "And here I was thinking you would be elated to see me," he replied, feigning being hurt. His hands were on his chest, and I rolled my eyes at how childish he was acting. "Sometimes you act like an overgrown child. Not only am I not welcomed, but I'm being referred to as immature. You just keep hurting my feelings." This time he wiped an imaginary tear from his eyes, and I held the urge not to roll my eyes again. "Will you quit changing my words?" I whined, causing him to smirk as he got up to his feet and came towards me. He stretched his hands out, and I took a hold of them, letting him help me get up on my feet as well. "I want to show you something." He beams, grinning from ear to ear, which makes me excited. "What is it?" "You will see," he answered, pulling me down the hallway. "Where are we going?" I asked. He turns to me, placing his finger over my lips, with a smile on his face. "Quit being impatient, Letitia." We moved along the corridor, getting to a hall I had never been to before. We walked down the stairs, pushed open a door, and got in. I was in awe at the sight in front of me. It was the moon illuminating a pool below. It shines with grace like a true queen, showing off its beauty. "It's beautiful, Darium," I gushed, looking at it with my lips parted. "Yes, it is," he responded, but I doubt he was talking about the same thing since his gaze was on me. "What are you doing?" "What? Why do you keep staring at my face?" "Because you are fucking beautiful." I blushed. "No cussing, Darium." I scolded him, and he laughed. "So pure and innocent. That's why I love you." My heart drops. "You love me." My voice barely whispers. "Yes, Letitia, I love you." He says it again. "I'm madly in love with you." "I love you too, Darium." I cried out, my hands rested on my lips to hold back the sob. Darium pulled me closer to him, using his thumb to wipe my tears before I rested my head on his chest. I wrapped my hands around his waist, clenching on his clothes. I held onto him, loving his warmth as I breathed in his scent of lavender and wood. This was where I belonged. In his hands, and I never wanted to leave here. I was surprised when Kiva told me about your intended journey to town. Neith spoke up from beside me as we made our way to the carriage. "I feel like I've been cooped up indoors for too long, and it has been a while since I last visited the people." "Is Darium aware of this?" "We don't want to give him a scare. You know how protective he is of you, especially after the incident at the ball." "You don't need to worry, he gave his consent." I said it with a smile. "Were you able to get the things I asked for?" "Yes, Kiva and Venice are handling it." We both got to the carriage where the food supplies were being put. The footman opened the door, and I entered with Neith, setting the basket I had been holding on the floor of the carriage. The door closed, and we jolted forward and out of the palace. "So tell me, how have things been with you and my brother?" Neith asked, causing me to turn my attention towards her. I saw the look on Darium's face. "It's safe to say that he is completely smitten with you." I blushed at her words, but didn't say anything. "I guess you don't need to say anything, it's all over your face. You aren't one to talk, or have you forgotten your lovely husband?" I teased, and she laughed, shaking her head in amusement. "So, what do you plan to do with all these food supplies?" "I'm giving it to the people. There are many orphans and widows. I would love to help them the best I can. This is my duty, not just as their queen but as a human. We have more than enough in the palace, why not spare a little for the needy?" "You are truly remarkable. Now I wish I had brought some more things other than a bag of rice, bread, and spices." "It's more than enough, Neith, and we could always bring more next time." "I'm glad to be a part of this, Letitia." "The pleasure is all mine." I said, taking a hold of her hand in mine before giving it a light squeeze. The carriage jolted to a stop, and the door opened. The street was filled with life, children running about barefoot, having fun. A smile lit up my face as I took a deep breath. I noticed I had caught the attention of some people due to my unique hair color. Neith and I began walking the streets, looking for a spot to set up a tent. We passed a couple of people, handing them some bread, coins, and food supplies. We were able to find a perfect spot, and the guards began setting up the tent when I felt something hit my leg from behind. I spun around, looking for what had hit me, when I saw a little boy, with tears in his eyes, sitting on the floor a distance from me. It seemed like he had scraped his knees, his clothes were torn and dirty. He looked no older than 5, and his malnourished appearance made tears form in my eyes. Fighting back the tears, I clutched down to his height, picking him up and placing him on my hips. His tears seemed to have stopped as he gazed at me curiously. "What's your name, my child?" I cooed softly, running my hand over his hair. "Alvar. Why are you alone? Where are your family?" "No family," he answers, shaking his head. "Who is taking care of you?" I asked. There was no way a child would live homeless, maybe in a Hades, but not here in Nisha. Darium had made sure everyone was accounted for. The orphans were put in a small home where they were taken care of. It was the same as the widows. To see young Alvar this way brought a tear to my eye. I wasn't the only one who was confused, as Neith stood with the same expression as me. "Who do you stay with, Alvar?" Neith asked, staring at the little boy in my hold. There was fear in Alvar's eyes when we asked for his possible guardian. He didn't have time to reply when a woman came running in our direction. She stopped in front of us, catching her breath before bowing her head and greeting Neith and me. "Queen Sviatoslavic, Princess Neith." She says this before looking at Alvar. "I'm sorry for the trouble my son may have caused. Alvar has always been a prankster, even for someone so little. He would dress homeless, trying to fool people of their money and value." My eyes furrowed at her words. How can someone so innocent be so devious like she claimed he was? "Are you his mother?" "I'm afraid not, Queen Sviatoslavic." "Who are you to him?" Neith asked from beside me. "I'm Kristen, his aunt." She responded, and her eyes began to fill with tears. Alvar's mother was my younger sister, but she had been struck by an illness a few months after she had given birth to Alvar, leaving the poor lad with me. I have tried to be both a mother and a father figure to him. "Are you not married?" "I'm afraid not, Queen Sviatoslavic." She sobbed. "The man I was betrothed to fell in love with someone else, so the wedding was cancelled, and it became difficult to find a suitable suitor, which makes me still a spinster at this age." I took in Kristen's appearance, and was surprised to hear that she wasn't married. She was indeed beautiful, and from the way she dressed, you could tell that she was part of a noble family. I glanced at little Alvar in my arms. Why was he dressed like this, when they were clearly from a well-off family? Was what she said true? Was he really a troublesome child? I didn't have time to ponder my thoughts when Kristen came forward to take Alvar from my hand. "We better get going, Your Highness. Alvar clearly needs a bath and some scolding for his behavior today," she said, bowing and beginning to retreat, but I stopped her, looking at the injury in his knee. "Let me take care of his wound first, before you take him home." "You don't need to, Your Highness. I can very well take care of it myself." She smiles, refusing my offer. "You are already busy as it seems. I don't wish to add to it. Thank you for your understanding." She says this before walking away from us. I stared at her retreating back, more specifically at the look in Alvar's eyes. It felt like he was begging me, pleading with me not to let her take him. "Are you okay?" Neith placed a hand on my shoulder. "I don't know, Neith, something doesn't add up," I said. I was feeling restless, and no matter how hard I tried to brush it off, Alvar's eyes kept pulling me in. "Yeah, I feel the same." There are so many holes in her story, no matter how hard she tried to make it seem believable. She never mentioned Alvar's father, or was he late like his mother? Clearly she was a noble, which meant her house should be crowded with servants and guards. Then how was he able to get past them and out the street looking like that without getting noticed by anyone? Can you help distribute the food to the people? I think I'm going to go after them. I don't think that's a good idea. You're going alone, and besides, how do you plan on finding them? You don't exactly know where they reside. I will be fine. I have Gareth, and about their residence, how hard can it be for us to find if we ask the people around? I tell her with an assuring smile on my face. Okay then, please be back on time, or Darium would have my head if anything happened to you. I nodded before setting down the path the woman followed, with Gareth trailing behind me. It wasn't as easy as I thought it would be to find Kristen's manor. Gareth and I literally had to ask up to 20 people before we finally got to her house. We stopped at a very big manor, and I puffed out an exhausting breath before walking in, just for us to be stopped by the head servant. How may I help you? The woman in front of us asked in an arrogant way, giving me a glare. Show some respect, woman, you are in the presence of the queen. Gareth barked, causing the woman to shiver in fear and go down on her knees, her head down on the floor. I apologize for my ignorance, Queen Sviatoslavic, have mercy on me. Where can I find Lady Kristen? I asked, ignoring her apology. The woman raised her head from the ground, glancing in the direction of what looked like a stable for a brief second before her eyes darted back to us with a nervous smile on her face. I'm afraid Lady Kristen is out at the moment. Out. I was confused. What about Alvar? The young master is on a trip to his grandmother's manor in a town a few miles away from here and won't be back till a week from now. She lied, having no clue that I had seen her a few hours ago. I glanced towards the stable and back to the woman in front of me, watching her gulp nervously. My feet began moving, and I was walking over to the stable when the woman stood up, blocking my direction. I'm afraid, Your Highness, the stable is a bit dusty and dirty, which would be bad for your health. Why don't you instead come inside and wait for Lady Kristen? She said, her voice louder than before, like she was trying to give a signal to someone. I was well aware of such a fact, because that was how Gala and I were back in Ahades. I pushed the woman out of my way, racing over to the stable. Panic filled me up. Pushing the door of the stable open, my step flutters back when I see the sight in front of me. My eyes welled up in tears when I saw Kristen with a big blooded stick and little Alvar laying on the floor, not making a sound. Kristen looked shocked to see me, and she immediately dropped the stick on the floor, trying to run away, but Gareth was able to tackle her down. I rushed to Alvar's side, picking up his bloodied form to check if he was still alive, and a breath of relief left my lips when I felt a pulse. I placed his body back down on the floor gently, walking over to where Kristen was and raising my hands up to strike her face hard. How could she do this to him? What crime could this little boy have possibly committed? Going back to where Alvar lay, I picked him up, refusing Gareth's help. Bring her to the palace. She's going to pay for her crimes. I command, my eyes blazing with fire. Gareth nodded as I stepped out of the stable and manor. I climbed onto the carriage waiting outside, Alvar laying on my lap. My hands gently wrapped around his fragile form as we rode back to the palace. It's going to be okay. I've got you. Everything is going to be fine. I whispered softly against his ear when he groaned in pain. Tears pooled in my eyes at his battered form. How is he doing, Leon? I asked the healer, watching as he checked Alvar, who was placed on a bed in a spare room of the palace. Neith was standing right beside me. I must say, Queen Letitia, he has been badly beaten. It's a miracle he is still breathing. I'm surprised he is still holding on with the broken bones, ribs, and bleeding. We have ourselves a fighter. Leon replied, monitoring the little boy on the bed. My heart ached at the sight of his bloodied body. How could anyone do something like this to such an innocent soul who has done no wrong? I walked over to the bed, sitting on the empty spot beside Alvar and running my fingers gently through his hair. Is there a way to lessen his pain? I asked as he continued to groan. I already gave him an herb to help with the pain for now. He needs complete rest and should be better within a week or two, but for his bones, it's going to take time to heal as they took a hard hit. Leon explained. If I had gotten there on time, this wouldn't have happened. Okay, let's not do that. Neith said, speaking for the first time since she walked into the room. It's not your fault, Letitia. He would have probably ended up dead if you hadn't arrived at the time you did. You saw his eyes, Neith. He was pleading for us not to send him to her, and we did just that. I sighed. We should have just trusted our instincts, and none of this would have happened. You can't blame yourself for something you had no control over. Like Leon said, he is going to be okay. With a little bit of help from the two of us, he will go back to normal. Though it might take time, he will be, and for his aunt, she is going to be held accountable for what she has done. I nod, still running my fingers through Alvar's hair. His grunting seemed to have stopped, and his even breath alerted us to the fact that he was fast asleep. I will be back tomorrow to check on his progress, Leon says, picking up his things, bowing, and leaving the room. I glance at the little boy on the bed, leaning a little to peck his forehead before fixing the quilt on his body. Getting up to my feet, I stared at my red-stained clothes, which had gotten soiled from Alvar's blood. You can go freshen up. I don't mind staying for a while to look after him, Neith said, ushering me out of the door, and I nodded, whispering a thank you before leaving. With Kiva trailing behind me, we walked back to my chamber as she helped me out of my clothes. I walked to the bath chamber, getting in the wooden tub while Kiva filled it up with scented flowers and oil. My mind was clouded with what had happened moments ago and Alvar's battered body. I keep thinking of what could have happened if I was a minute late or didn't go after them. I don't think I would be able to live with myself knowing it was my fault. Even now, a part of me is still blaming myself for letting him go with Lady Kristen. Lady Letitia, you have done exceedingly well today. Kiva spoke from behind me, her fingers running through my hair, washing it with scented soap. I'm not so sure about that. I am, even the princess is. She responded. Everyone knows how much you care for the people. Without saying anything, I got out of the tub with a robe around my body before walking back into my chamber, and Kiva helped me with my nightwear. She asked if I wanted to have dinner in the room, but I shook my head, dismissing her. I didn't have the appetite to eat. Walking over to the balcony, I rested my hand on the threshold, watching the stars in the sky and how beautiful they shined, emitting their gleam. A knock resonated from the door before it was pulled open, and I turned around to see Kiva walk in. Lady Letitia. She said this, causing me to walk back into the room. The king has expressed that he would like to see you in his chancery. My brows creased at her words, and I gazed at her puzzled. Why does he want to meet me there instead of in our chamber? It's already getting late. I'm afraid he is in a meeting with Commander Nico and Lord Zane as they have an important matter to attend to, but the king wishes to see you before they carry on with their discussion. She explained. I think he must have heard about what happened and is just worried about your well-being. I nodded, understanding what she meant. Kiva picked up my night robe, helping me wrap it around my body, and we set out of the room to the king's chancery. We got to the door of the chancery, and Kiva knocked softly. The door was pulled open, and Nico and Zane walked out. They both bowed when they saw me, a smile on their faces. Letitia, it's good to see you all better. Zane beamed. I apologize for not coming to visit. There were some pressing matters I needed to attend to back in Silvio. It's okay, I understand. A smile grew on my face. Your letters were enough, but I must say, I'm glad to see you after not seeing each other for 2 months. Same here, Letitia. You better go in. Nico says, cutting in on our conversation. Darium has been a little restless after hearing about what happened to your visit to town. I took a deep breath before going in. The king had his back to me, looking out of the windows, with both hands in his pocket. He turned to stare at me when he felt my presence behind him as he walked over to me. Both his hands were now on my shoulder. His eyes moved up and down my body like he was checking to see if I was okay before sighing and dragging me close to him in a hug. His breath fanned my neck, and his arms wrapped tightly around mine. I melted into his hold, my hands behind his back. I heard about what happened, Darium said when he took a step back. How could you go off by yourself? The concern in his tone turned into a scolding one. I was with Gareth, and I also had the guards in charge of the carriage. Still Letitia, he calls out sternly. I'm not doubting Gareth's ability to protect you, but what if something bad had happened to you? Nothing happened. Darium, I know you are worried, but nothing happened. You didn't really expect me not to go when I saw the look in the little boy's eyes. I'm more worried about him and the pain he is going through right now. I cried out, tears pooling in my eyes. Darium hugged me again, placing a kiss on the side of my head as he softly patted my back. I know, but you don't know how worried and scared I was. I'm glad to see that you are okay. We stayed in each other's embrace, not saying a word. I wasn't sure how long we stood hugging each other, but our moment was interrupted by a knock on the door. We broke the hug with Darium walking over to the door, pulling it open, and Danae standing there with a tray of food in her arms. She bows, handing the tray over to the king before closing the door behind her. Kiva told me you haven't had anything since this morning. He says this, placing the tray on the table before taking a hold of my hand and dragging me along with him. He took a seat on the chair, pulling me down on his laps. You need to eat, Letitia, even if you aren't that hungry, you still need to eat. He took a spoonful of rice from the plate, bringing it up to my lips, and I found myself opening my mouth as I took a bite off the spoon. The food was marvelous as expected, but I was served a large portion, and Darium kept feeding me till I wasn't able to take any more, and I shake my head. Etl-RD, you need to eat. I'm full, I can't take any more. I reason with him. Besides, you have been feeding me and haven't had a bite yourself. I know for sure you haven't eaten your dinner yet. I took the spoon from his hand, took a spoonful of rice and diced meat, brought it up to his mouth, and he took a bite. Just like he fed me, I did the same as well. In no time, the plate was cleared, and we were both done eating. Will you be working late today? I asked, taking a sip of my water. I'm afraid so, Etl-RD. He answered, stroking my hair. Zane, Nico, and I need to handle some matters and won't be able to join you in bed today. My brows furrowed. Is everything okay? I asked worriedly. There's nothing that can't be handled, you don't have to worry. He replied, pecking my lips. Why don't you go to bed? I'm sure you will probably be tired after today's activity. He says, and his fingers brush up and down my arm, causing me to yawn, and my eyes begin to feel drowsy. I think I'm going to spend the night beside Alvar. I tell him, getting up to my feet. I want to be beside him, just in case he needs me or he gets scared. Darium nods before holding me tightly in a hug. See you tomorrow, Letitia. He whispers in my ear. See you tomorrow. I whispered back with a smile on my face. Please do try to get some rest as well, your health is just as important as mine. I will. He pecked my lips one last time before I walked out of the room with Kiva, Nico, and Zane waiting. I waved the two goodbyes, walking towards the direction of Alvar's room with Kiva behind me. There were 2 guards stationed at the door, and they both bowed before opening the door. Neith sat on the chair beside the bed with a book in her arms. When she saw me, she rose to her feet with a smile on her face. He has been sleeping peacefully, the herb must have helped. She said this, staring at him. That's nice to hear, I was worried that he might still be in pain. I walked over to the other side of the bed and lay beside him, my arm gently cradling his tiny form. I'm sure you must be tired, why don't you get some rest? I will stay with him tonight. I already made a guess when I saw you walk in. She responded. I got news about what happened to his father. Her words caught my attention, and I shifted my gaze from Alvar to her. Why isn't he present in his life? His father happens to be the former king of Hayatia. I gasped out, shocked, my eyes wide open. I was well aware of the passing of the king of Hayatia and his brother, King Orin, taking over. Rumor has it that he was bringing the kingdom down with his ruthlessness and killing. Why is he here instead of Hayatia? Neith sighs, shrugging her shoulders. This beats me, this is as far as I know, and the only reason I know this is because I interrogated Kristen. We need to interrogate her tomorrow to get more information. I exhaled, glancing down at the little boy in my arms. I better get going, have a good night. Thanks, Neith, have a good night as well. I say to her, watching her leave the room before looking down at Alvar. I'm never going to let anyone hurt you again. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you have a happy and fun childhood. I whispered softly against his ear, pecking his forehead.
Darium's POV.
I felt like crap. I wasn't myself, sitting here with Zane and Nico, trying to figure out who was sending these threatening letters. Any update yet? I asked Zane for the 100th time since he came. No, not yet. We have dispatched guards around the palace and also outside, trying to figure out who the mastermind is here. I still don't get how they were able to find this out. You said it yourself. The healer and his apprentice were warned not to say anything, and after our visit to his place, I'm certain they had nothing to do with this. Zane says, emphasizing each word. I can't think of anyone else. I was so out of it that night. My mind was clouded with the thought of Letitia. I growled out, frustrated. What about her personal maid, though I doubt she would do this? It isn't Kiva. That girl adores the queen, and after the incident she has been devoted to taking care of Letitia, Nico said, cutting off Zane's words, and I agreed with him. It was certainly not her handmaid. It was like my head was being split in two. I felt a hand on my shoulders and turned to see Nico behind me with a worried look on his face.
We are going to find whoever is responsible for this,
he says, coming to stand beside me. Why don't you tell her, Darium? Keeping this a secret will keep giving them an upper hand. Zane exclaimed. No, we can't. I don't want her to get hurt. She has been sensitive about not getting pregnant, no matter how hard she tries to hide it. This would wreck her if she found out she lost a child. I growled at him. I knew he was as worried as I was, and he took her like a sister. We need to think rationally here. If she finds out about this from someone else, she would no doubt be shattered and would feel betrayed for not telling her. He tried reasoning, and I gave him a defeated look, knowing he was right. Zane is right, Darium. I know you don't want to see her get hurt and want to protect her as best you can. I would do the same if it were Neith, but right now the best way to avoid their demands is to tell her the truth. Or would you rather carry on living without her or help her stand strong to overcome the pain? You know I can't live without her. She is the very air I breathe.
Then you have your answer. Tell her the truth. Zane and I will continue to look for the culprit in charge of this letter. We already caught the guard working for them. We will no doubt find the person behind him.
I sighed, nodding. What about Tegan? I muttered. We are not sure yet, but there is a rumor around the Hayatia people saying they saw her hanging around King Orin. Nico responded, looking between Zane and me. Do you think it might be her? I'm not sure yet, but I won't put it past her. She has been way too quiet, which is so unlike her. I mutter, taking a deep breath. You said she was last seen in Hayatia, right? I asked, and Nico nodded. Isn't that where the little boy Letitia brought comes from? What little boy? Zane questioned, glancing between the two of us. I will explain everything to you later, Nico said to him. I rubbed my face with both hands, inhaling and exhaling, trying to calm my racing heart. Let's meet later. I have a meeting to attend now. They nodded, bowing, before leaving the room. I hope everything turns out great.
Letitia's POV.
I slapped my hand on my mouth to stop the nauseousness I felt as I took a deep breath. The sight of Kristen was anything but pleasant. I always knew Neith could be brutal if she wanted to, but I never got to see it until now. Kristen was unrecognizable, her body lying on the cold, dirty floor of the dungeon, unmoving. The only thing that indicated she was alive was the shallow breath that filled the room. There were so many scars running down her back, and her clothes were torn. She looked anything but noble, with dried blood sticking to her body. She must have sensed my presence because her head raised up and she struggled to keep her focus on me. Have you come to torture me even more? It's all going to be a waste of time because I don't regret what I did to him. I should have killed that little bastard when I had the chance. She voiced it weakly but with malice and hatred for Alvar. Why? I took a breath. Why do you hate that little boy? What possible wrong could he have done to you at such a tender age? Oh, please, stop the sentimental talk. She muttered, her eyes burning holes in me. If anyone is to blame, it's my whore of a sister. How dare she take what's mine? Acting all innocent as she seduces the king, she spit out, her eyes blazing with anger. All this because your sister married a man you were in love with, and since you couldn't take it out on her, you decided to take it out on her son. How wicked can one get? I said it softly. She scoffed, groaning weakly. Your Highness must live in a fairy tale world if you think the world is all glitter and gold. She took a painful breath. I wouldn't have had to turn vengeful and hurtful towards my sister if she had listened to me and given up on him, but no, that bitch went ahead and got married to him, saying she was in love with him. She shouldn't have eyed what was mine. She says it again. And now her son has to pay for all the pain and heartbreak she caused me. She owes it to me, she said, a look of pure hatred in her eyes. I guess I was wrong to hope. Some humans just never change. No matter how hard you try to see a glimpse of the good person you think they are, they end up failing you beyond your expectations. Taking a deep breath, I gazed at her with furious face, recalling Alvar's battered body. You will be punished according to Nisha law as you show no remorse for your action. Her eyes widened at my words, and she got to her knees, holding onto the bar gate of her prison cell. You can't do that. It only applies to someone who killed a person. As far as I'm aware, that little filth is still alive. My decision has been made. I tell her, making my way up the stairs of the dungeon. You have no right to judge me. You are nothing but a Hades princess. You don't belong here. Go back to your rubble of a kingdom. Everything had been going fine before you came here. You are cursed, cursed. She continued to yell as I walked out of the door, her voice muffled behind the closed door. I'm guessing it didn't go as you expected, Neith said beside me, and I sighed, shaking my head. I told you already, Letitia, people like her never change. You will only waste your time trying to reason with them. I know, I thought maybe after being caught and what you did to her, she might feel remorseful, but like you said, it was all wishful thinking. So what are you going to do about Alvar? She asked, concerned. I sent some guards to ask around as to what could have happened and why he wasn't in Hyatia. Were you able to get any news? She nods, and judging from her reaction and the look in her eyes, I could say it wasn't good news. After the previous king got sick 5 years ago, he had given Alvar to his wife's sister, thinking he was safe with her instead of in the palace, with a lot of enemies locking in. He had no idea, even on his deathbed, about how she maltreated him. What about his crown? With the king passing, he should be crowned the next king. Yeah, but he is still young, and King Orin, who happens to be the nephew of the king, was asked to rule till he comes of age. You know very well how he is. It doesn't help that he is searching for Alvar, and I doubt it's to give him the crown. I think it's best that he remains here in the palace, where it's safe for him. I think so too. I nod, biting my lips in a nervous act. I will go check up on him. It's almost noon, and he should be up any moment from now. I said to her, and we both parted ways as I walked back to Alvar's room. I pulled the door open to see him still lying on the bed, eyes closed. It's been a week, and like the healer said, he was making a progressive recovery, but his legs were still weak enough for him to walk. I go over to the other side of the bed and get on it. My hand patted his chest as I hummed a lullaby I learned from Neith, my eyes slowly drifting close. I was woken from my sleep by a soft, tiny hand on my cheek, and my eyes peeled open to see Alvar staring down at me with a smile on his face. Hey, baby, . I cooed, sitting up on the bed. My eyes moved up and down his body to see if he was still in pain, and I relaxed when I saw that he was okay. This was the first time he was truly awake, since the night I brought him back to the palace. He had been in and out of it, opening his eyes for a short while before closing them again. I saw that he kept on looking at me curiously, more specifically at my hair, and I smiled even more when I saw the fascination in his eyes. Want to touch it? I asked, and he glanced at me cynically, his eyes scrutinizing my face probably to see if he could trust me before giving me a small nod. I took a strand of my white hair and gave it to him, which he took, looking at it like it was something amazing. He continued to run his hand through it, and I leaned a little, not saying anything. After some time, he must have gotten bored playing with my hair because he let it go, staring out the window at the night sky. His eyes became blurry with tears surrounding them, which caused me to be worried at his sudden change of emotions. I picked him gently from the bed, placing him on my lap, before patting his back softly. "It's okay, let it out," I whispered in his ears, and he cried even more. There was no doubt that he was traumatized by what had happened to him. Even an adult like me would not talk about someone his age. I continued to whisper sweet, calming words to him as he cried. We stayed like this in each other's embrace. His crying stopped after a while, but his head still rested on my chest, and I continued to pat his back till I heard the small growl of his stomach. "Let's get you something to eat," I cooed, trying to place him on the bed, but he clenched onto my dress, refusing to let me go. I looked down at him, giving him a small, reassuring smile. Carrying him in my arms, I picked him up from the bed, walking over to the door where Kiva stood. "Lady Letitia," she said this, coming closer to me. "Do you mind asking Danae to make a light dinner? Alvar is hungry," I say to her, and she nods, walking down the hall. I close the door, walking back to the bed and sitting on it with Alvar resting on my lap. I brushed my hand through his head, waiting for Kiva to return with his food, while I hummed softly as I patted his back.